Добро вечер. Во вечерашната топ тема ќе гледате дебата за проблемите на затворскиот систем и интервју со евроамбасадорот Дејвид Гир. Во очекување на завршување на истрагата за Пендиков, евроамбасадорот Гир смета дека Македонија и Бугарија треба да работат на меѓусебно разбирање и взаемна почит. Смета дека тоа би бил духот кој треба да се запази и за време на одбележувањето на годишнината од раѓањето на Гоце Делчев. Во интервјуто за Топ Тема тој говори за малцинските права, дали се можни уставни измени во вакви околности меѓу Македонија и Бугарија, за наводите за руски влијанија во двете земји, борбата против корупцијата и криминалот и слободата на медиумите. Да го погледнеме целото интервју.
Your Excellency, thank you for your coming in TV Telma and opportunity to have an interview with you. We appreciate very much that you are in our studio.
Thanks, Jana. I'm happy to be here.
Во пресрет на прославата на годишнината од раѓањето на Гоце Делчев, деновиве навистина се зборува за тоа дали ќе има тензии, инциденти, несакани случувања. Какви се вашите очекувања во однос на овој настан?
I mean, I hope and very much expect that this will be an opportunity for the two countries to commemorate the anniversary of the birth of Goce Delčev, an opportunity for dialogue and increased mutual understanding and respect. It's been a difficult couple of weeks, but even during that time it's important that there have been continuing contacts between North Macedonia and between Bulgaria, because good neighbourly relations are in the interests of everyone. And so we've seen contacts at the level of Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, Interior Ministers, just to give some examples. So that's the spirit in which we look to this commemoration.
За Европската унија се многу битни човековите права, меѓутоа во однос на Македонија нема извештај ниту од Судот на човекови права, ниту од Европската комисија за дискриминација на малцинствата, особено не на бугарското. Од друга страна, во извештајот на Судот за човекови права во Страсбург повторно има забелешки за неспроведување на пресудата на основните човекови права на слободно здружување. Зошто Европската комисија не реагира можеби поостро кога се во прашање неспроведување на човековите права од страна на Бугарија како членка на Европската унија?
Let's separate things out a bit. First of all, human rights are a part of those fundamental values on which the European Union is based. And as a result, in the accession process, we place a great focus on respect for human rights. We include it in what we call the fundamentals. So that means at every stage of the accession process, human rights are in the center of attention. That's actually a good thing, because what it means is that a candidate country, when it joins the European Union, will come already with a good track record of respect for human rights and be able to contribute to what is, after all, a community of democracies. Now, in terms of monitoring of rights, of course, we are following very closely in the accession process. But within the European Union, countries in the European Union, they are followed in a number of ways. First of all, there are, of course, domestic mechanisms in each member state to follow respect for human rights. At the EU level, these issues may be discussed, for example, in a political forum like the European Parliament, and there are some mechanisms to ensure compliance with what our European Charter of Fundamental Rights. But the main organization which is responsible for monitoring respect for human rights is the Council of Europe, which, as you know, is completely different from the European Union. It's an organization of 46 member states, including the EU's 27 member states, including this country. And the reason for that is it has the mechanisms and the expertise to do so. So they have the European Court of Human Rights, they have the Venice Commission, the Parliamentary Assembly, the Committee for the Prevention of Torture. So that's where the main focus would lie for reviewing EU member states' adhesion to human rights standards. But we expect all countries that are applying to join and all EU member states to implement human rights standards. That is the expectation. But as I say, the monitoring and the following, the close following, is primarily within the Council of Europe.
Со оглед на состојбата, дали мислите дека се можни уставни промени во вакви услови?
The constitutional change, first of all, is a sovereign decision for this country to take. And of course, you're right, we hear many different voices, and this is very much in the public domain. I think it's important that we step back a moment and ask what actually is this constitutional, what does it actually mean in practice? In practice, it's about including into the constitution a reference to individual citizens here who self-identify as Bulgarian. That's what it is. That doesn't affect the essential nature of the constitution. It doesn't affect the identity of the country or its essential interests. And this country already has a good record of inter-ethnic relations. So these changes are changes which can be managed, which need to be looked at in an objective and perspective. We need to stand back and look at them. And let's compare, for example, with some other countries. Take Croatia, whose own constitution includes more than 20 communities, including Bulgarians, including Albanians, including Macedonians. That has not changed the essential nature of the constitution or affected the interest of the state. So what's important, I think, is to have a debate which looks at what's really in question and to try and move away from the sort of higher rhetoric which is not helping to see the issue in hand. We talk to everyone, we're ready to talk to everyone to explain how we see it, but at the end of the day, it's a decision for this country to take.
И двете страни, и во Бугарија, и во Македонија, еве одредени политичари во Бугарија и овде во Македонија велат дека има руско влијание во односите помеѓу Бугарија и Македонија. Не се работи само за хибридна војна, туку и нешто повеќе. Дали имате сознанија, можеби, или мислење во однос на еве ваквите изјави на македонските и на бугарските политичари?
Look, I don't have access to specific intelligence or first-hand information on this issue. What I can say, first of all, we only have to look at Russia's appalling war on Ukraine to see how much disinformation, how much fake news they're spreading within the region, including here, and there are some channels that simply rebroadcast that without challenging it. And we know more generally that Russia is playing a destabilizing role in the region in general. So we need to be very alive to the possibility of Russian interference, unfortunately. More generally, though, I think coming back to the issue of good neighbourly relations, I think it's in everyone's interest, particularly in the interest of citizens, that North Macedonia and Bulgaria continue to build good neighbourly relations, that they work together on this. Yes, we've followed the developments very recently. The incident in Ohrid we've condemned, but so have the authorities here. They've also condemned it. And the judicial authorities are now following up, and we expect the investigation to lead to be concluded in a timely manner. But in the meantime, I think what we need, going back to your first question really, is everything to be done to work together towards mutual understanding, mutual respect, in the interests of everyone, in the interest of the two countries.
Борбата против корупцијата е една од основните услови за усогласување на земјава со европското законодавство и влезот во Унијата. Меѓутоа, нема впечаток, особено кај населението, дека иако се носат закони, дека има вистинска борба против корупцијата и криминалот, особено од релевантните фактори. Тоа се владата, па и судскиот систем или обвинителството.
I completely agree with you. The issue of corruption is a huge challenge, and it has to be addressed. It affects the rights of citizens. It affects their access to education, health, jobs, promotion. So it affects every aspect of life. And that's why within the accession process, the fight against corruption is again at the very center. We call it one of the fundamentals, which means we look at it at every step of the way. Now, in general, there have been some positive steps in this area. Some legislation has been passed. Some institutions are working effectively. We think of the State Commission for the Prevention of Corruption. Think of some of the audit authorities who are doing important work. But, legislation is not enough. It needs to be implemented, and if it's not being implemented, it needs to be enforced. As regards the judiciary, yes, there are some individuals, there are some parts of the judiciary and prosecution who are doing the job they need to do, but the public in general's judgment of the judiciary is very low indeed. So the judiciary and the prosecution need to demonstrate to the public and need to show through actions that they can have confidence that those institutions will deliver injustice. We, of course, are supporting the process, but I agree again, a lot more is needed. The government needs to play the leading role, but other institutions are also key, and you in the media, civil society, as well as individual citizens can also play an important role. We saw that with the case of the air traffic controllers, where there was that sort of strong public reaction, which meant that the issue was addressed. So those kind of reactions are also important. But we will continue to follow this extremely closely and provide support where we can, right through until the country joins the European Union.
САД најавува црни листи, мислам дека граѓаните ќе се радуваат ако видат дека навистина се ставени луѓе кои што се против борбата за корупција и криминал или се инволвирани во неа. Ова ве прашувам за во однос на тоа дали пак Европската комисија ќе превземе некој конкретен механизам или чекори во борбата против корупцијата.
First of all, I think you make an important point about political influence, because one aspect of corruption I should make is also the way in which you see many appointments, key appointments, which are not based on merit or experience and qualifications, but on a political affiliation, which is also a problem here. Now, in answer to your question, yes, we have the biggest mechanism of all, which is the accession process, because if this country wants to join the European Union, if it is to join, then it will need to go through a process of transformation, including in the rule of law, which is fundamental, including in the tackling corruption, which is fundamental. That means attacking vested interests. That means creating a system which is fit for purpose. Without that, the country will not be able to join the European Union.
Деновиве телевизија Телма беше квалификувана од страна на лидери на политички партии, конкретно Ахмети, па и премиерот Ковачевски, во однос и беше етикетирана. Исто така, кога ќе напишеме извештај во кој што се содржат наводи за корупција и криминал, исто така добиваме многу несакани коментари од представници на власта, меѓутоа и на институциите. Смета, какво е вашиот коментар во однос на ова и во однос на напаѓањето на некој начин на слободата на изразувањето и слободата на медиумите?
Let's be absolutely clear. The media has a vital role to play in an open society. And that means that the media needs to be able to carry out its job without intimidation, threat, undue influence, or anything else which might put in danger journalists, or which might require you and other journalists to self-censor. That is that's absolutely essential. And there is a responsibility on people in public life, including politicians, to support the media, the independence of the media, and to do nothing that would undermine that. At the same time, the media also has responsibilities, as you know, responsibilities to ensure that it's providing reliable and accurate information to the public, so they're in a position to make to make free decisions about issues of public interest, but also the future direction of the country. And that's not easy. I mean, in a world of instant news, in a world of fake news, in a world of sensationalism, even in the EU, it's difficult. So in short, let's be clear, the freedom of the media needs to be respected. At the same time, journalists, the media profession, needs to act with a high level of professional responsibility.
Ви благодарам за интервјуто.
Thank you very much.
Ги слушнавме пораките на евроамбасадорот Гир, а со дебатата за затворскиот систем продолжуваме по рекламите. Останете со Телма.